It's the Right Word Awakened, an invigorating engagement of words, spirit, mind, and self. With word stylist Emily, you can call her Claudette Freeman. Reimagine your words, rewrite your power, recreate your life, renew your story, right here on the Right Word Awakened podcast. It's all part of the Right Word Awakened movement, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe.
Okay, so I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking at the top this time because I really want to get back into this a brand called Me discussion. And so I want to immediately welcome back Patricia Jean-Louis to the show. And Pat, tell us a little bit about what you do with Rebrand to Profit and your podcast.
Sure. With Rebrand to Profit, I work with women entrepreneurs primarily. Most of my clientele are women who have been in business for at least 5 or more years. They pretty much are established, but they're looking to rebrand. They want a fresh new look. They have gone through, laying the initial foundation of their businesses, and now they're looking to take it to that next level. So I pretty much come in and kind of give their brands a fresh new look. We explore if their target audience are still the same or if it's changed over the years and whatnot. And I go into developing their brand development as well as their graphics in addition to their website as well. So we do a complete overhaul because every now and then, even for us, it's time to kind of refresh and rebrand who we are because we've grown. Our brands, even as a business, has grown. Us personally have grown. We've learned new things about ourselves, and now we just want to package it differently and make it more appealing. So, yeah.
And it's so funny because one of the notes that I wrote down was something that I read on Forbes.com, and it says personal branding is about making a full-time commitment to the journey of defining yourself as a leader and how this will shape the manner in which you will serve others. And I think that so supports what you just said, especially that part about making a full-time commitment to the journey of defining yourself. And that's what branding is really about, whether it's a personal or a business thing. It's about defining yourself. And I think you said in the first show, having a conscious impact on what people say, about your brand when they walk away from you.
Exactly.
I think that's
exactly.
I think that's absolutely vital, and I don't think we really, we often tell ourselves, I don't care what people, say about me. I don't care what people, think about me, and I get that. However, if you're supposed to have a specific impact on someone, but you're living your life in such a way that you're away from your authentic brand or who you were divinely created to be, then the impact that you're supposed to have on that person who is part of your purpose for being here did not happen.
Exactly. And that's how we have to look at it. It's not that, they're saying these things about me and it affects who you are in a sense that now you take on this personality that's not who you are authentically. I remember very early on when you would ask, this is how I knew how people felt about me as a business person. The first question that they would ask me, what are you doing? Are you still doing that gift basket thing? So that was a clear indication to me that they were accustomed to me always changing the type of businesses that I was in.
Wow.
So there was that level of inconsistency. So for me, I didn't take it negatively. What I had to realize was that you need to become more consistent. So when people look at you and when they speak your name, no, Pat, she's the one that does branding and marketing. There's no question. And it took work for me to actually get to that point where they knew exactly who I was and what I was about. And that's how we have to look at it. And that's why it's important. You know what people say about you when you leave out of the room. because that's a clear indication of what you're presenting to the world.
So if I'm following what you're saying, Pat, and I hope I am, because I think you just made a vital point, and I don't want people to miss it, is that your brand should absolutely represent or manifest or distribute the value that you're able to consistently deliver.
Absolutely. It has to. It has to, because you have to say to yourself, what type of person do I want to represent to the world? You know, in my industry, even in graphic design and web development, it is notoriously known for where designers are known for not being on time with projects, not finishing stuff, getting paid for work and not delivering what they promised that they were going to deliver. You can't find them. I have so many clients that come to me and say, well, I paid a web designer to do my website, gave them all of this money, and they didn't do half of what I thought that they were going to do. Or I paid them for a flyer and I didn't get what I wanted. This industry is known for that. But I had to change how people perceive me as a designer, as one that develops brands for other people. So I didn't want to be known to be one of those out there that does the same thing. So when someone comes to me or refers business to me, I want them to know and to understand, if I tell you I'm going to deliver your stuff, on Friday, you're going to get it Thursday night. If there's an issue, I'm going to let you know this is what's going on, because I'm trying to build a reputation where it's not parallel to what's already out there in the industry. But again, it goes back to my brand, because that's my name, and that's how we have to look at it.
And so even as looking at our brand as our life, as the way we live our life, then we have to do the same thing. You have to be committed to your word, and you have to be committed to paying attention to the questions that you're being asked, and honestly assess whether or not you need to change the narrative that you've been putting out there.
That's it. And you have to work on you. Like, I have a friend of mine, she's known. It doesn't even matter what we're doing. She's going to be late to everything. We already know that. So it doesn't matter, what time the event, this and that. She's going to be late. She's notorious for that, and we know that. Love her dearly, but she's going to be late. So you have to say to yourself, don't lie to yourself and say, well, the kids or the husband or the car. Yes, I understand there's always stuff that comes up. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I understand. We make excuses for ourselves, which is unnecessary, because then what happens is we stifle our own growth. Instead of saying, you know what, I am always late. I own that. I need to put things in place to change that behavior, because what I'm putting out there is that I'm late to everything. I cannot be relied on.
Wow.
And we have to be willing to be honest with ourselves, and then put the necessary parameters in place to say, you know what, I'm going to change this behavior. And it's just that simple.
Yeah, because and we probably look at something like the example you gave and say, oh, it's just time. But you're right. It speaks to your level of reliability. Exactly. And it speaks to some degree to your level of respect for other people's time.
Exactly.
Which, again, goes back to what kind of message are you putting out there. So inadvertently, you could be sending a message to people that I really don't respect you.
And then it basically that's what it is, and it translates into your business. Because trust me, how you handle stuff in your personal life is the same pattern you're going to apply in your business.
Wow.
Because that's what you're going to apply it.
This is one of those, look in the mirror and say she's not talking to the neighbor, she's talking to you kind of conversation, because it's just like all in your face, which is good, because I think we need this. Pat, what is there how do I want to say that? Is there a level of accountability, or should you have a level of accountability when it comes to deciding how you're going to define and then I guess manage your personal brand or live out your personal brand? Should there be, or is there a need for some type of level of accountability to that?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because it's very important, and that's where, you know, even as you, when I talk about in the 5 Ps of unlocking your authentic brand in potential, you know, understanding the potential that lies on the inside of you, one of the areas that I deal with understanding your potential, your giftings, your, you know, your talents and all of that is the importance of building the right team around you. In business, you need a team. And you need a mentor. You need people that are going to hold you accountable. In your personal life, you need the same thing. And so in developing the potential in you, you need the right team of individuals that understand. Like, if I know I'm bad with time, I can't have somebody else who's just as bad as I am hold me accountable to being on time to meetings. Like, it's not, it's just not going to work. Because we're battling with the same issues. And a lot of times,
together.
Exactly. And what happens is a lot of times we work together with people that is comfortable for where we are. I made a conscious decision a couple years ago and decided that I was going to change the landscape of the people that I work with and the people that I collaborate with and the people that I do business with, and be strategic in building relationships with different individuals. It wasn't a matter of, oh, I met so-and-so and now we're friends or whatever. I was strategic. I saw something in them that was a weakness in me, and I made it a point to develop a relationship with them, because those areas is where I need to get better in. But again, it required me being honest with myself and then having them hold me accountable, because they have to be on time. It's a must for them. It pushes me to say, you know what? Oh, I know they're going to show up 10 minutes before time. I need to get up out of this house.
Right.
You know, so it encourages that. It's no different than when we're trying to lose weight, go to the gym. I can't go with somebody who's flaky and they're not sure whether they want to lose weight or not, or when we leave out of there, we're going to eat lunch. It's just not going to work.
We're going to the worst place in town to eat lunch. We're going to the barbecue joint to eat lunch. We're not even going to a pepper bar, you know. And then they'll say, we'll work out next time. So, you know, let's take a quick break, Pat, and I'm glad you mentioned the 5 Ps. So when we come back, I want you to recap the other 2, and then we'll move forward in the next 2. We'll be right back on the Right Word Awaken podcast.
Don't you dare move. There's so much more to engage on the Right Word Awakened and Emily Claudette Freeman Vibe. We'll be right back. Now back to the show to employ reimagined words and stories in the strategic plotting of your life journey. The Right Word Awakened.
So before we went to the break, Pat, you brought up the 5 Ps that you use to work with your clients. So I want you to go back. Last episode we talked about a couple of them. So I want you to go back and recap those first 2 Ps for us.
The first 2 was your position, and the second one is your posture. And like I was explaining, your position is where you are physically, and just being honest with where are you located, where you are right now in your life. And your posture is where you are spiritually, where you position spiritually. And then from there, I go into your potential, who you are, what's the potential that actually lies in you, your strengths, those things that you find easy to do, that comes natural for you. And then, of course, I briefly talked about the importance of building those relationships for those weak areas that you have, and building those relationships that can kind of enhance those areas of weakness for you and help you to get better in those areas that will complement the strengths that you actually have. And then following that is the process. A lot of times we kind of run from the process, but the process is very important because it's in that we learn how to stay on course, how not to give up, how to continue to move forward, how to weed out some of the relationships because of poor decisions or because of issues and things that we hadn't dealt with, how that process, has to be walked out, and we can't abort it, before time, but we have to go through it. And then finally unlocking the true power that lies in you in order to live the life that God intended for you to live from the beginning.
So when you and I did our, because I'm one of those creators that Pat talked about in the first episode that, every idea that comes to mind, I want to do it right now.
Yeah.
And so often if you walk into my office, you'll see these huge Post-it note sheets on the walls, and they've all got project ideas on them. And what I've learned to do, you'll be very pleased to hear, Pat, is to brainstorm everything, but don't necessarily, I'm no longer compelled to work on everything at one time.
Gotcha.
But I've realized that I have to brainstorm because otherwise I'm never going to sleep at night, because I'll go from talking to characters to do an editorial calendar for content to this, that, and the other thing, and I'll never sleep at night. Mm-hmm. But I remember when I did the session with you, one of the things you said to me, you asked me is, who is your ideal client? Who are you designed to work with, or something like that, right?
Right. Because the thing is, the thing is, you got to understand who that person is, who that person actually looks like, in order to effectively move forward.
Right. And I don't think that I had a clear idea of that. At the time I did that session with Pat, I was really focused on doing literary coaching. And so if you had a book, I wanted to be your literary coach. And that really wasn't working well for me from a time perspective, a revenue generating perspective, and having time to be a single mother perspective, because I was spending too much time doing and chasing, and I had developed a very hard pattern of just that, doing and chasing. And so in doing that session, I realized that when I think about the ideal, for lack of a better word, client for me, it's someone, I think I said to you, it's someone probably like Olivia Pope on Scandal, who's, who has this image of power. She's a fixer. She's a this, she's a that. But at the core of her, you see this wonderfully fragmented person who has some stuff that she needs to deal with, who has some stories that she probably needs to work out and tell and relate to others, and who has the capability of setting aside the time and the finances to work with someone like me. Because one of the things I definitely realized is in working with clients, it became less about what you were writing and more about what you're hiding from.
Wow.
And so my gift, what I really understood was that the writing and the coaching are the tools to get to the other stuff, to get to the gifting. And the gifting is the interviewing and the counseling.
Wow.
And it made sense for me because, as you know, Pat, I did radio for 24 years, and they were split evenly between news talk and gospel.
Right.
And so the two things, the spirit and the world of news talk radio, absolutely groomed me to be able to say, I can be strong in that gift. That gift has some value.
Exactly.
That gift is my value. And so realizing that absolutely transformed my way of thinking to the point that I made a conscious decision to lay down the literary coaching side of me for a while, because I felt like I needed to fully embrace this new brand that came out of that session.
Right.
And I can't say even now, Pat, that I've fully done that, so it may be time for you and I to, rebrand. But when you're working with people who have that moment where they realize the gift that they thought was the gift was really not the gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's really something else. That's part of the rebranding then. Am I correct?
That's part of the rebranding, because even for me, I had to go through the same thing. Whenever I create something or I am developing a program, whatever it is, training, program, workshop, whatever, I always am my first client. I'm always the first person that has to go through the process of it. And for me, early on, when I first started, I was doing graphics and web development mostly for startups, individuals that were just starting, and they needed a graphic designer, they needed a website done and whatnot. And so they were in the very beginning stages of their ideas, and stuff was all over the place. And for me, I realized it's very laborious. Because you're trying to sift through all the concepts and all the ideas that they had, and they didn't know what they wanted, and you're trying to make sense of it so you can create something that is effective for where they're going, and it just wasn't working. Now, it wasn't that what I was doing as a graphic designer and a web designer was not what I was supposed to be doing. It's just that the clients that I was choosing and working with were not the clients that I was created to work with. And that's when I created when I started working, created Rebrand to Profit, I realized that even for me, it required a rebranding of who I thought my ideal client was. Who I thought they actually looked at. Because like I said, in the other segment before, clarity comes with engagement. The more and more you engage, the more and more you get involved, the more and more you're working with those clients, the clarity of who you are supposed to be working with, and for the most part, who you need to leave alone, becomes much clearer to you. And it became very apparent for me, I don't do well with startups. That's not the direction. Now, for me, I will. There are some that do come to me for initial ideas and stuff that they have, and I'll kind of counsel them through that process and whatnot. But my ideal client, and like I said, is those they have been in business. They've gone through that first 5 years. They've gone through laying that initial foundation. So they actually a little bit more solidified.
Right. And they've hit some walls. They've faced some challenges. They've already gone through and come through some things.
Exactly. So those for me are the ones, they know what they want. They for the most part, they have the resources. They're ready to move forward. And it's just a matter of, let's just get it done. Those are my ideal clients. They are clear in terms of where they're going. Right. They just need me to execute the visuals, and that's it.
Right. So let's talk about that, Pat, because I think that's a good point. Execute the visuals. And so we're talking about branding, not only from a business and a personal branding standpoint, but from a life standpoint. So how important are determining the visual, what the visual look like of the brand will be? And let's take another quick break, and then we'll come back and you'll answer that for us. We'll be right back on the Right Word Awaken podcast.
We hope you're enjoying the show. The Right Word Awakened, the unconventional defining and analyzing of words, phrases, and personal life stories will return in a moment. Welcome back to The Right Word Awakened, an Emily Claudette Freeman vibe.
The question on the table, Pat, is the visuals. How important are the visuals? How critical is the look that you put out there for your brand?
It's key. It's very, very key. And I can tell you my first experience, and at the time I didn't know, I didn't have the words for it then, but I remember specifically I was working at the state attorney's office. This was years ago, and I had my gift basket business on the side. So this is even before the graphics and the web development and all of that. And I remember working there, and I was a legal assistant at the time, and on a floor where there's a whole bunch of us. Legal assistants. And you can clearly tell the difference between the legal assistants and the attorneys. The attorneys came to work. They had their suits on because they're always in court, whether it was the male or the females, and they looked the part. The assistants, we looked the part as well. Half of us came to work, looked like we rolled out of bed and just showed up. We're getting the work done, but there was a clear distinction in terms of the appearance. There was no question who you were and what you did as far as your job and your job responsibilities. And I remember being there about a year, and in my time of prayer, I remember God speaking to me and saying that I had to change how I dressed to work. And I said, okay, God, I need to step it up a notch. And I remember I specifically, for this, I got a job at the time at Petit Sophisticate. And I worked there so I can get the discount so I can buy suits. And I started buying suits. And I started going to work with suits on. Mind you, the other secretaries looking at me like, why are you going to work so dressed up? They didn't understand where I was going. But God showed me a vision, and He wanted me now to walk in it as if I was already there. And the amazing thing about that was I didn't understand it was God showing me how to brand myself and package myself in a way that represented who I really was on the inside. I didn't understand it then. So I would do that. I would go to work and I would get dressed in a suit. I was from head to toe, makeup on, hair done. I went to work the way that I wanted to represent where I was going. And secretaries thought I was crazy, like, why you addressing your clothes, the type of clothes you don't wear to work, this and that or whatever. And I remember my supervisor at the time we were having a meeting, and of course she had to call me out and was like, I wish some of you would come. Look, Pat is our great example. Look how she comes to work every day. Some of y'all, because they were kind of working flip-flops and shirts with no sleeves, tight pants on, hot mess. But where God was taking me, as a result, I was getting ready to leave. When I was getting ready to resign from the state attorney's office, I had 2 offers to come work with 2 different attorneys. And I had to choose between the 2 where I was going to go. But because they were impressed not only of my appearance, but also my work ethic. So, and I say all of that because it plays a role. Your packaging no different than your website, your logo, your color palette. All of that is great. But you're the brand that people walk into. You're who they see when they first meet you, whether personally or as a business. And how are you representing the brand?
So tell me, Pat, give me 3 or so questions that every person should ask themselves when it comes to thinking about their branding.
When they're thinking about their branding, I think the first question they should ask is, where am I? Where am I really right now? Whether it be in a relationship, whether it be in your finances. And it doesn't necessarily, and let me just go back, even in regards to relationships, it may not even be marital relationships, even if you're single, it could be friendships. Where are you in those relationships? Are they conducive for where you're going? Do they come in line with where you're trying to go, and being honest with that? Sometimes some relationships are just worth saying, you know what, let's shelf this for right now because I got somewhere to go. So just really where you are at this particular stage in your life, where you are right now. The second question is, what am I here to solve?
Mm-hmm.
What is the problem? What am I here to help solve? I come to solve something. What is that? And finding out what that issue is, what that problem is, because you are an answer to somebody's prayer. You are an answer to somebody's issues. And what is that solution that you bring that no one else can bring to the table? And the third question I would ask is, where am I going? Where am I going? Where is it? What's the direction? If I'm going to New York, there's a certain road that I need to take.
Right.
So I need to know where I'm going. And I always ask clients that. Where are you now? Let's look at where are you now, and what is the end result? Where are we trying to get to? So now strategically we can fill in the gaps. So that way we can see honestly what the true path is to get you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. If the goal is to lose 10 pounds and you're at such and such weight, well, guess what? What do we need to do in order to get those 10 pounds off? Let's develop a strategy. All you have to do is follow it.
Yes.
And you'll get there. So those are my three questions that I would ask.
I have enjoyed our conversation so much, Patricia.
Me too.
And the thing that I love about returning to radio in the form of a podcast is that I am relearning so much, and I'm having so many eye-opening, or as Oprah would call it, aha moments in doing this, and it's just absolutely amazing. So I do thank you for taking time out of your schedule to join us. Tell us where people can connect with you online and how they can take advantage of a strategy session if they're interested.
Sure. They can connect me on my website, which is www.rebrand2profit.com, rebrand2profit.com. On all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on Rebrand2Profit. That's my for Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, Rebrand2 and Profit. And, of course, all the information in regards to my podcast is on there. And if they want a strategy session, which is complimentary, they can just sign up on the website, and I'll be more than happy. You get a 20-minute call with me in regards to your brand and taking your brand to that next level.
And I can assure you guys it's going to be an absolutely powerful 20-minute call. She's going to make you think in areas you didn't know that you needed to think in, which is a good thing,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I like to end the show with your take action stuff. You got to be able to walk away from opportunities like this with something to do. So your affirmation is, my brand promise to me is to be me, authentically, consistently, and purposely, for great impact in my life first. Your intention is, I intend to consciously find and live out my brand, my purpose, my muse, my me, and represent the value that is divinely instilled. And then your move, taken right from Pat again, dig deep. Ask yourself, what is your position? Where are you at? What is your posture? Where are you spiritually? And then we're going to add this one. What is your posture encouraging you to rebrand? What is your posture encouraging you to rebrand? And if you want to get a printed copy of this, as always, email us at rightwordawakened@eclaudetliterary.com. I'll talk to you next time on the Right Word Awakened podcast. This is E. Claudette Freeman.
You've been listening to The Right Word Awakened, an invigorating engagement of words, spirit, mind, and self with word stylist Emily. You can call her E. Claudette Freeman. Want more information? Visit www.eclaudetteliterary.com. For sponsor, guest, and other show information, email rightwordawakened@eclaudetteliterary.com. Until next time, tell your words to wake up.